I am excessively tired, which is why this one is late. I'm just having very busy days at the moment. I literally slept until 10 this morning and I'm still tired. And I have a massive headache. So, I'm gonna race through this. Reading challenge number 30. Hello and welcome. And today we're going to be talking about Blind Willow Sleeping Woman by Haruki Murakami. This, of course, is a collection of short fiction. There's often a very delicate magic in Murakami's work, and that's very evident in all of these stories pretty much. My favourite story in the entire book was Hanalei Bay, which is about a woman whose son is killed by a shark while surfing at the titular Hanalei Bay, and what she does afterwards. I really love that story. It's the longest story in the book as far as I recall, and it's just beautiful. And there was another story in here that really struck me. I mean, there's a lot of very good stories in this. There are some stories I didn't like so much, but not enough to sort of mention them. They just weren't my cup of tea. But one story in this particularly caught my attention, and that is Firefly. Firefly involves a young man who ends up sort of alone and isolated and apathetic at college. He ends up entering into this sort of strange, disjointed, maybe slightly inappropriately emotionally entangled relationship with his best friend's girlfriend. And his best friend has died, so she's in mourning, and it's just a strange little story that I really enjoyed. But what struck me about it most were some similarities in it to Colorless Tsukuri Tazaki and his Years of Pilgrimage. I felt like it was his jumping off platform for Colorless Tsukuru, and that Firefly was done better. Colorless Tsukuri, it's well written, of course, but I just felt like there was something about it that was a little bit two-dimensional. We're back with the same chap we are always, our lonely, isolated, apathetic male protagonist who is drifting through life essentially, not sure what to do or how to be or anything like that until he meets the woman with the fascinating earlobes. This always happens. Always happens. The woman with the fascinating ears comes along and his life is changed one way or another. There's always something that catalyzes his life. In Colorless Tsukuru, he is friends, or was friends, with 4 other people whose names translated as colours, which is why he is Colorless Tsukuru. And at some point in his sort of later teenage years, they unceremoniously dumped him and sent him into Coventry. Wouldn't tell him what he'd done, only insisting that he knew what it was. This is not a nice thing to happen. I know this. This has happened to me, where you're supposed to have known what you've done and you don't get to find out what they think it is you've done when you know you've done nothing, and you're sort of like, what the heck? So, you know, I had reason to feel connected to Colorless Tsukuru, but I didn't. I kind of felt like, you know, I enjoyed the story. Beautifully written and really absorbing, and when he meets this Sarah woman, she's kind of interesting. I really liked her. She won't get into a deep relationship with him until he resolves this issue that he has around his 4 friends dumping him, because he's never resolved it. He's just sort of drifted and had it happen to him and just existed after it as such. So in order to get this Sarah, he goes off and tries to find out what happened. I think that's what annoyed me more than anything else. Normally, the stories that these apathetic young men get involved in are deeply interesting. Not that this one wasn't. It's a very important subject, but I just felt like there was something missing. I suppose what I'm saying is Colorless Tsukuru doesn't really go anywhere for me, and that's what irritated me. That's what disappointed me. I didn't need it to be supernatural, because Firefly isn't supernatural, but it goes somewhere, and it takes our apathetic male protagonist on a little bit of a journey. And although Colorless Tsukuru definitely took himself on a journey, it kind of felt like the end point was the same as his starting point. He's still slightly apathetic. He's still only fighting for the one woman, whereas I feel like in other Murakami novels and stories, a little bit more has happened, a little bit more has woken up. There's been like too much of a moment that has driven them forward. I felt that was lacking. Maybe I need to read it again. I've had someone suggest to me about Colorless Tsukuri that I have missed the point entirely. Maybe I have. But to me it felt like we were revisiting the same guy as we always do, but this time his context and his story and his catalyzation weren't as compelling. So there we go. And when I read Firefly in this, I was like, I maybe would have preferred the whole entire story of our Firefly protagonist than Colorless Tsukuri. Just saying. So, that is both Blind Willow, Sleeping Woman and Colorless Tsukuri. I would recommend Colorless Tsukuri. It's very well written. And as usual, Murakami pulls it out of the hat with bringing sort of a strange magic to ordinary moments. That's one of the things I like most about his writing. But for me, it did not succeed in pulling off the same level of sort of interest as his other books. Yeah, it fell flat for me. Whereas Blind Willow, Sleeping Woman, I enjoyed most of this, especially the story Hanalei Bay. Really loved that. There was another story I really loved in this, and that was Hunting Knife. I really loved that. Don't know why, but it just really, I don't know, resounded with me. Anyway, that's... Next week I'm going to be talking about The Slinks by Tatiana Tolstaya, which is an awesomely weird and wonderful book, and I hope you'll join me then. I'm sorry today was late, but I hope you enjoyed it anyway. Bye bye.